I think a lot of times your growth is dictated by the market. But over the years, we started to uncover and unravel an understanding of what the broader market looked like and started to realize, holy cow, the opportunity for this particular thing is much, much larger than we had originally anticipated.
There is no exact playbook for growth.
People want to keep this secret.
For the most part, companies are successful because they've managed to excel at one or two channels.
I think a lot of times your growth is dictated by the market.
Word of mouth, though important, does not work when you don't have any customers.
I'm Dave, and get ready to scale or die. So what's up, Growth Nation? Welcome back to Scale or Die, the show where we uncover proven growth strategies from growth experts and CEOs behind some of the world's fastest growing startups. And every year, Forbes puts out a list, at least for the last 3 years, called the Cloud 100. And this list includes companies like Stripe, Slack, Zoom. And this year, number 57 was Zapier. And we have, of course, Wade, the CEO of Zapier, here on the show with us. We're excited to dig in and talk about kind of the journey from the start all the way up to getting on the Cloud 100. So welcome, Wade. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Was that a pretty exciting deal for you guys to find out about the Cloud 100?
Yeah, it is cool. You know, it's a nice validation. It's a good honor of like all the work that the team does for the customers. You know, we serve our customers day in and day out, and always nice to get a little recognition for that hard work.
Yeah, totally. You guys don't seem like you care a whole lot about the accolades of the powers that be in Silicon Valley, but I'm sure it's nice to make some lists somewhere.
Yeah, it always feels good. Honestly, I'll tell you a secret. The thing that it feels the best to is family members, because we have 100% remote team. And so sometimes it's like, is that a real job? How does that work? And so like when it's, you know, hey, look, we're on the Forbes Cloud 100 list, like it's a real job.
That is awesome. Very
cool. But
cool.
also the family members.
That's amazing. But even they don't even know how big of a deal that is. They're like, oh, you know, Slack, are they a good company?
Yeah, but they know what Forbes is. So they're like, okay, that's cool.
That's awesome. Very cool, man. So we have been using Zapier at our companies for about 5 years now. So from early on, I think, in your career, and we freaking love it, man. I mean, this is like one of the most used, most talked about softwares that we use, companies that we really like, and everybody loves it. And it was only until recently that we realized it wasn't Zapier. It was Zapier. Is that a common issue for you guys?
Oh yeah. We have like in our footer, Zapier makes you happier, and like when you hover over Zapier, it like wiggles to draw attention to it.
Yeah.
So we try and do little things to get people to pronounce it the right way.
I'm just curious.
But you know,
where did the name come from in the first place?
So we started at a startup weekend, and so we need a domain, we need a name fast, and I kind of was like, well, we're building stuff on APIs, so it'd be cool if API was in the name. And then IER is a common ending in English. And so I was like, well, maybe there's like an API ER thing. And, did a quick look on a couple domains, and Zapier was available. And so I'm like, okay, you know, $8 later, $9 later, that's who we are.
It sticks.
Yep.
That's awesome. Very cool. Well, so yeah, explain, to people listening, if they don't know, and they should know, what is Zapier in your own words, and kind of where are you guys at as a company right now?
Yeah, we help people connect all the common business tools that they use. So we have integrations into 1,300 apps, things like Slack, like Google Apps, like MailChimp, like Salesforce. And you can set up really easy to set up workflows. So if you want to save, email attachments that come through over to Dropbox, you can do that. If you want to get a Slack alert for a new payment in Stripe, you can do that. And then, of course, as you start to use it, you kind of uncover a little bit of the power, where it's like you can build more complicated workflows. We just launched a new feature, Paths. So there's like a lot of extra stuff you can do under the hood. But it all starts with kind of that insight of like, oh, I can set up a little thing that helps me push something from this app to another.
It does kind of hook you. Like you don't realize you need it until you're like, I just need this thing in a Google Doc. I'm just going to do this one time. And before you know it, like your whole business is like intricately woven in. Yeah. It starts with a little hook.
It does. It totally does.
So are you from Missouri?
I am from Missouri, yeah.
So you're from Missouri. I'm from Kansas. I went to Kansas State, you went to Mizzou, but then I came over. We both spent some time at Mizzou. I think when people think tech founder, they don't think the Midwest. So I'm just curious, from your perspective, you live out in San Francisco now, or San Francisco area. Has being from the Midwest played any notable part of your story in building Zapier, do you feel like, or how you think about yourself on the scene?
I think we have fans and stuff in Missouri and in the Midwest. So there's some, kind of like you get some cheerleaders because of that, because they want to see you do well. They want to see you be successful. And I think, starting a company is so hard. It's, everyone who's ever tried to start a company knows how incredibly difficult it is. So you take your cheerleaders wherever you can get them.
Yeah. Very cool. So, let's talk growth. Going back, when did Zapier start?
2011.
2011. And now, how many employees do you guys have?
We're at 170.
Okay, 170. And what about like ARR right now? Do you have those and share those numbers?
Our numbers, which we released in March, are at 35 million as of March of 2018.
Cool. And so I guess, when you kind of launched, how did you get those first users?
The first place we looked was forums. So there's a lot of SaaS apps that have public forums. So you could go to the Evernote forum, the Dropbox forum, Basecamp forum, Salesforce forums, and you would see people saying, hey, when are you guys going to build an integration with Google Contacts or with Dropbox or with whatever app that they wanted to see an integration built with? And the thing we recognized was these forum posts were often sometimes a little dated. Like they were kind of old, and then they would have tens, sometimes even hundreds of comments where people would be +1, me too, let me know when it's going to exist. I really want this. Why haven't you built this yet? I can't believe you aren't paying attention to this integration. See how many comments are on this thread. Like that was the gist of what was going on in these threads. And, the response from the companies in these threads was often something like, hey, we have this on our radar. We're paying attention to it. Like, we'll give it some thought, during our next roadmap planning cycle. It was the classic, if you ever worked in a product org, you know what that is. That's a PM telling you no.
Totally.
And so we were like, so for whatever reason, these companies we couldn't tell. Like, it's like, they're just not going to build this stuff. So we felt like, okay, maybe we'll build it. And then I would go into the forums and I drop these comments. I would say, hey, we're working on a little project. If you want to build this yourself, here's links to their API docs and you can go try and set this up on your own. But I got a little project where I'm trying to build a thing that can help you with this. So if you're interested in checking out the project, click over here and, you can give it a try. And that was like just a really nice strategy for us at the time, because we would get, I'd drop a comment like that and it would send us 3 or 4 or 5 visitors, but they were all highly targeted. Like these are people who are like, I want this thing. And so they would click through and be like, you have the thing, please give me the thing. And it was just the right amount of like traffic for us. You get 10 visitors here or there, all super interested, all really wanted this to exist. And it was in the early days, like that's all you want is like one person, 5 people that really care about this problem. And so it really helped us get those first free users.
That's kind of how you got the idea, kind of validated it, and then was like, so as you're kind of like launching, once you kind of say, okay, I think this is a good idea, let's build this thing, were you just posting in forums? Like, was that the main growth plan to start off?
Posting in forums was like the earliest thing we did. And then eventually, we started, once we like had a public pages that like had pages to talk about the integrations we supported, we would go work with those partners and they would link over to our site and say, hey, if you're looking for a MailChimp integration with, Google Docs, there'd be in the MailChimp integration directory, they'd link over to the page on Zapier where it talk about that stuff. So we get traffic directly from these partners. We'd work with them to send emails out, to get blog posts up on the site. So those early partnerships were really helpful. And then along the way, we were creating all these pages for integrations, and those would get indexed by Google. And, when people would go search for them, we would show up there too. And then the product, we really worked hard to make it simple and easy to use. And the business model, we have freemium business model, so it allowed you to get started for free. And as a result, it created some word of mouth, so things would spread. So those were kind of a few of the mechanisms that fueled the growth at Zapier.
Very cool. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, we're small potatoes, but we have sent so many customers to you guys over the years, just because like we were like a marketing agency, at first, then we kind of switched into like teaching marketing. We'd build funnels, and it was always like, hey, this only works if you like use Zapier. Like, we'll build you, give us your account details, we'll set it all up for you. And it was like, even with Proof now, like we finally just got our official app, so it's good to be in the Zapier family. And it's like, we send so many people there because it's just like, hey, you have to use this to do what you're looking to do. So it makes tons of sense. Is that like 100% of growth for you guys is like through those partnerships? Do you guys do kind of growth strategies outside of that? And what does that look like?
I mean, it really is this flywheel where it's, partners build things on Zapier. That creates like pages that get indexed in Google that we can send traffic to, that people will link to. And that brings more partners into the fold. And then it just kind of like flywheel gets going. We've done things on the content side of stuff where we have a pretty popular blog and resource page these days that pulls in a lot of traffic. So that's helped. But most of that's helped from more of like a brand awareness sort of thing rather than a direct user acquisition mechanism. That really partnership flywheel has been really a critical growth lever for us.
Yeah, makes sense. Have there been any growth channels or strategies you guys have tried over the years that just haven't panned out, or like bets you've taken or risks you've taken?
So many. We've tried so many things. And, I think the thing is, they might work for us now. Like you kind of give things a try. We did the two-sided referral thing that like Dropbox did, where it's like, hey, if you refer a friend, you get some bonus stuff and they get some bonus stuff. So we tried that, and that didn't work for us at all.
Why do you think that didn't work looking back?
Well, I think a lot of people try this and they fail at it. I think the reason Dropbox succeeded, I think their exception is Dropbox succeeded because it was a very easy to understand thing. It was a lot of people needed Dropbox and they understood what space meant. It was, hey, if I share somebody, I need more space because I want to put another movie in my, Dropbox account, or I want to put more songs in my Dropbox account. So they knew like that was a thing that they really understood why they were doing this trade-off. It's like, I really want to get that. So I'm going to like invite my friends into Dropbox. And I also know that they probably want this too. So it was very, like the incentives were just aligned for everybody, where it was like, I want this stuff. I know my friends want this stuff. It's very clear. And it was harder for us to figure out exactly what the value prop is. Like the language around Zapier is tricky. It's like, what's a zap? What's a task? Like those are new concepts that we're bringing to market. Whereas Dropbox wasn't teaching people storage space. People had always managed their storage space on their machine, so they knew what it was like to run out of storage space. So that's my hypothesis. I think Dropbox really just had a nice mechanism that worked really, really good for them.
Seems like the ones that I've seen, that have worked well have been more consumer-based than B2B. And Dropbox, in that stage, it was just you tell your mom about it and you tell your brother about it. And like, it's just a very consumer-oriented incentive plan.
Totally. And, PayPal had their thing where they give you $10 and, PayPal stuff, which was better than like a payment service giving you money. Like that can certainly help you grow. Those kind of referral things, though, I think, if, like you said, they fit a certain type of business. And others, it's tougher to do.
Yeah, very cool. So you've got 170 people now. How many of those are like on the growth and or marketing team of the 170?
We probably got about, I'd say 30 or so focused on growing the business in some way, either product, engineering, partnerships, writers, that sort of stuff that are really thinking about how do we grow the user base? How do we convert users? How do we, create enough value that we can convert them to paid, that sort of thing.
And so what does it look like? And like, what advice would you give for like you guys? When did you kind of have your first person that was thinking about growth? Although again, with you guys, it was different. I mean, partnerships are a huge part of it, but it's like, how do you start building out that growth and marketing side of the company?
I think it's tough. Like, I think a lot of it has to be a founder. that starts doing a lot of this stuff. So I was doing quite a bit of it. And honestly, Brian and Mike did a lot of work here too. You kind of have to make it like a core competency of the business from the get-go. I think folks who are kind of searching for, magic bullets, like, well, I can build a great product, but I can't, I just need to hire the growth person to come in and fix my growth problem.
Yeah.
They're kind of looking at it from the wrong way. It's like, there's no one that's going to come in and understand your business as well as you do. So like, you kind of have to figure out what are some of these growth things that could work on your own. And then once you start to figure out like, oh, there's actually an opportunity here, that starts to signal like, what's the type of person to bring in? If you start to realize, oh, content could be a play here. So maybe you're starting to bring in somebody who's got some experience in that. You're still wanting to bring in a pretty generalist because you're going to want a lot of experiments. But it's different bringing in that type of person versus saying, actually a lot of the stuff we need to focus on is more of from a product standpoint. We're going to build a lot of features. We're going to create virality. We're going to do a lot of user-generated content. Like if that's the kind of thing you're going to do, you really need to bring in a strong product person that understands this sort of stuff. So, I think you have to figure out these insights on your own inside the company. And then when it comes to bringing on that first person, you're looking for a generalist who has experience kind of in that set of thing where you're like, my instincts after a couple tests tell me this is the spot.
Yeah, that makes sense. So here's a question I have personally had and wrestled with, and I think you might be able to give insight. I was looking on LinkedIn, doing some creeping, and looks like you guys have a chief growth officer and a chief marketing officer. And my question is, what's the difference between those two? What do they do? How do you think about that? When do companies or why would companies want those two different people instead of that being one thing?
Yeah. So at Zapier, the way it works is the chief growth officer is really a product manager at heart. It's kind of digging into what do we need to build from a product standpoint that is going to drive this business. And so they're paying a lot of attention to, the marketing pages, the activation funnel, and the retention funnel throughout the business, and trying to reduce the friction all the way through that. So it's really a product and engineering team that's running that side of the business. Whereas the marketing side, they're spending a lot more time thinking about how do you create awareness for the product? How do you really understanding the users? Who are the users? What segments are working? What segments are not working? What are the types of campaigns we need to spin up? Who are the partners we need to be working with? And so it's more of like, it's a different skill set than what the product, the growth side is looking at.
Is that pretty common for a company at your stage to kind of start to split those two focuses out like that?
We might be a little early compared to when most companies start to split those things out. But, we had an opportunity to work with two fabulous people on the growth and marketing side. And we just said, let's do it. Let's go for it.
Gotcha. Just kind of the right person at the right time. Just maybe a hair early, but like bring them in.
Yeah, let's do it.
Very cool. So what's something maybe that you've discovered over the years? Like what's something counterintuitive that you believe about growing a startup that maybe most wouldn't think?
I think a lot of times your growth is dictated by the market. And I don't think first-time founders perhaps appreciate that as much as they might think. They often think, well, I'll build a great product and, we'll grow a business around that. And to a certain degree, you can brute force that and that can work. But the market that exists around the problem you're solving matters a lot, especially in terms of, is this going to be, a good business or a great business? And the thing that separates a lot of times good business from great businesses is that you're playing in the right space. And that was something certainly at Zapier that we just lucked into. We figured out like, hey, this integration thing feels like a fun thing to build. We're not certain like if there's even a big market here, but it feels like there's a market. And so we'll build something, we'll build a nice business. Maybe we can work on this full time. And if we do that, that'll be great. But over the years, we started to uncover and unravel an understanding of what the broader market looked like and started to realize, holy cow, the opportunity for this particular thing is much, much larger than we had originally anticipated. And I know when we went in, it was not something we were like, okay, this is going to be we're going to build a really meaningful, big, large company that is going to sit at the center of all these SaaS companies and connect the world sort of thing. Like that was not like what was on our mind. But you kind of uncover that as you go. And I think every market has those dynamics. And to a certain extent, you just kind of have to get in there and live those to realize like, where are the market forces? Where do market forces exist? And if you find a wave, it's good to go surf it.
Yeah. Okay, so one thing I've been working on a lot is becoming a better CEO and kind of shifting from this like, total scrappy, do everything to like, okay, like let's do some CEO things. I'm curious, like what's the best thing you've done in the last year to improve yourself as a CEO to make that shift at this stage?
I'll give you two things. One, I got a coach. I was kind of a bit anti coach. I kind of thought like, that's kind of a snake oil-y sort of industry. But I did this thing where I go interview CEOs who are, about a year ahead of me. And I ask them the question you just asked me. It's like, what can I do to like, what are the things that worked well for you? What are the things you wish you would have implemented sooner? Where do you think you overinvested? What'd you spend time on that didn't matter? I asked like a lot of questions like that just to figure it out. I started hearing people say like, well, I got a coach. Well, I got a coach. Well, I got a coach. And I'm like, what? Like it just didn't resonate with me. But I heard enough smart people tell me that I was like, well, I should investigate. Like these are smart folks. Like I should figure out why they're giving this advice that feels counter to me. And eventually I kind of, I guess, came to my senses a bit and found somebody who I thought was really good and started working with them. And that has been really helpful. It just kind of sorting through, the day-to-day problems that you have running a company. So that was one. The second thing is we got to a certain size where we started to round out our executive team and really bring in the leaders that can own functions in a way that you as a CEO will never own a function. And I think that really changed the dynamic of the CEO role for me, when it's like we actually have a team of executives that are like going out and implementing the strategies. And it really feels more like a CEO role when you have that versus the younger days of Zapier. It never felt like a CEO role to me. It always felt like a title that is there, but I feel like I'm still working in the business a lot. And so I'm actually assuming a lot of roles. I'm assuming a marketing leadership role or a support leadership role or a product leadership role, which kind of accompany your CEO duties as well. But over time, when the executive team starts to fill out, you start to realize like, there is a lot more work in the CEO role. And so I think it's only been, as we crossed maybe 100 employees where I felt like, okay, that is a role that I can really truly assume in its, I guess, entirety.
Yeah. Okay, very cool. Well, as we finish up here, we always end with 6 questions we call the Salty 6. I don't know why we call the Salty 6, but it sounds interesting, so people listen. So this is 6 rapid fire questions for you to answer, just for us to get to know you a little bit better. Sound good? Are you ready?
Let's do it. I'm ready.
Are you nervous or are you feeling pretty good about it?
I'm always nervous with these, so we'll see.
All right. So number 1, what do you do for fun?
Play ladder racquetball. Nailed it.
All right. What's the best conference you've ever gone to?
Oh, man. Best conference I've ever gone to. I mean, I'm going to call Startup Weekend, where we started Zapier, a conference. And that has to be the best one because it led to what we built.
Love it. What podcasts do you listen to, if any?
I don't listen to any podcasts.
Okay. What book are you reading right now? Like what's on your nightstand?
I'm reading through High Growth Handbook.
Okay, what is that?
It's all about growing, fast-growing companies.
All right, High Growth Handbook. Michael Jordan or LeBron?
Michael Jordan.
Why?
I grew up idolizing that guy.
Do you have posters on your wall?
I would wear his jersey to school, and I was like, I'm going to be the next Michael Jordan. I was convinced.
Okay, and then what one person would you like to invite to a dinner party, dead or alive? If you just wanted to get in the same room with someone, have dinner, who would it be?
George Washington.
Why? Why George Washington?
I think the American Revolution is super interesting, and he made a lot of decisions that I think were somewhat counterintuitive. A lot of folks after the war was won wanted him to become a monarch, and he chose not to. And he resisted that temptation and set up the American democracy. And his leadership style was interesting. He invited people into his cabinet that were had total polar opposite opinions and viewpoints on things. And so he brought really good advice and sought diversity of opinion and things like that. And so I think he just seemed like a very different kind of leader for the time, when it was, typically kings did the things that they thought were best and didn't always consult with other folks. And I think he kind of beat to a different drum. So
amazing. Love it. Well, very cool, man. Well, that is the Salty Six. You survived, passed with flying colors. And man, if people want to, watch what you're doing or learn more about what you're working on, where can they find you?
Zapier.com. Come check out the product. If you're curious to follow me, I'm on Twitter @Wade Foster.
Love it. Love it. Well, thanks so much for being on, man. This has been good. Thanks for watching, or those on the podcast, thanks for listening. Tune in next time for more stories from growth experts and CEOs behind the world's fastest growing startups. Thanks, Wade.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.